Hello, my friends, and welcome to another stream of Adobe Live. I'm your host, Kieron Lewis, a freelance designer from London. And on today's episode of Adobe Spotlight, we have the very awesome Lars Gal. Lars, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me at first, and nice to be on Adobe again.
It's good to have. I mean, you've done this is your second time, right? Am I right in
Yeah,
saying that
second
you've?
time. Yeah, the previous
Okay,
time was with Ryan with Adobe Live. So
nice. So
good to
you're
be
in good
back.
company then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Great. I mean, first time we've streamed together, so I'm super excited to jump into it and see what's going on. And I can see our folks in the chat coming in thick and fast. We've got Wade, Keys, Ace, Robert. As always, my friends, make sure you get those questions in the chat, and I'll do my very best to make sure to share them with Lars whilst he is basically talking us through his design journey, his background. Because this is a very different stream. This is all about Adobe Spotlight. So basically, showing honing in on Lars's background, his journey, his work process. So it's a bit about the person behind the work, which is always a nice thing to do. So you're in the right place to kind of level up your creativity and learn all about Lars. So Lars, that's enough about me, buddy. Would you like to introduce yourself as to who
Yes,
you are, what you're about?
sure. So my name is Lars Gal. People can also know me from Dutchly Designs from Instagram. I'm 27 years old and I live in the Netherlands, in the eastern part of the Netherlands, so the opposite of Amsterdam. Um, so you can know me from Instagram. I do a lot of tutorials for Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator tutorials, but I also do a lot of client work. So I'm a graphic designer and I
Mm.
specialize in logo and brand identity design, and I do all kind of things for practices, for healthcare, for technology, car washing, whatever. I do all kinds of things. It's
Nice.
really yeah,
Strong
cool
background.
to yeah, yeah. So that's a bit of what I do. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I think I mean, we'll definitely jump a bit much more into the work that you've done and your background. But I remember when I viewed your Instagram, which I know you've got up on the
Mm.
screen, it's quite a wide variety, of the kind of clients that you do. But you perhaps maybe talk us through some of the stuff on your Instagram that our
Yeah,
folks can
sure.
see now.
Yeah, so as you can see here, here's my profile, and I have also some brand identity projects in here. So it all started actually back in 2020, I think, when COVID happened. Also
Mm.
from the previous life, yeah, Ryan also talked about it, that all these people have something with COVID, and then are going to do things they really love. And I had a lot of time during my studies, and I decided to. Be more creative and try different things. And I was already like designing some game logos in the past for friends, and eventually took
Nice.
more serious. And then, I got into logos and eventually visual identities, brand identities. So yeah,
Mm.
there's a lot of stuff going on here, and this is actually the first side of the page. And if you go to the real tab page, there's a lot of tutorials also
Ah,
for other designers. So people who
nice.
also don't have knowledge about Illustrator can actually follow my page and learn the basics or more like advanced techniques in Illustrator and tools. So
Yeah.
it's I try to keep the balance, but it's a bit hard to do all the busy
Yeah.
schedule and things and projects.
Of course, well, it's nice that you're giving back as well. I think that's really cool. When I sort of did a bit of research on you, I noticed obviously you're very active in the space. You do a lot of work, but you do these tutorials as well, which kind of shows folks if they're quite new to the space how they kind of get it. And I mean, in terms of your background, and I know we'll definitely into it more. How did you kind of start out? I mean, were you kind of through the educational route, or did you kind of self-taught, or what
Yeah.
streams, or what's your
Yeah,
what's
so
your kind of
I'm
background on that from?
fully self-taught, and actually during I did a whole different education. It's nothing design related. So I did my bachelor in molecular life sciences, and there eventually I had to sadly undergo a surgery, a spinal surgery, which was at the end of my bachelor. And then, yeah, I had to rehabilitate a lot of a period of time, like some months. And at
Mm,
that time, I had to do research, etc., for tests, and I already had that done, and I had a lot of free time, so I could like,
mm,
do what I wanted to do besides that, and that's why where I picked up design in 2020. Also, when COVID happened during that period, I actually.
mm.
It was like a double boost for me because I had so much time, and that's
Yeah.
where it all started. And yeah, that surgery was really hard. It was a spinal vertebrae surgery with two rods in my spine. But
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it because I
Of
don't want
course.
to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a bit sad. But eventually, yeah, I think that was also a motivation boost for me to show my work and post
Mm,
on Instagram, and that's where all things exploded. And then during my the last year of my bachelor, I still wanted to continue and finish my do a master, and so I did a master in
mm,
medical biology. So that's yeah, also nothing design related,
sure.
with a specialization in human biology. And yeah, last year at my birthday, I graduated, got my master's, and now I'm doing
Congrats.
the yeah, thanks. So that's a bit of the yeah, a long story short, but
No,
yeah,
no, I
no.
mean it's and thanks for sharing that. I think I mean there's a few things to unpack there which is quite interesting. You mentioned obviously you're not from that traditional, well, what you would consider to be traditional background in terms of
Mhm.
how you kind of came out. And also in that period where it was during the lockdown, you kind of honed in on something that is of an interest, which I think is really a cool thing to do. Because again, it'd be great to know in the chat, if you're kind of starting out, was it during the pandemic or did you kind of start out, maybe sooner or later? But it's always refreshing to kind of know how folks kind of started out in the industry because there's multiple routes you can do, right? In terms of how you kind of end up in the creativity
Yeah,
space.
you don't know where it will go, and I think
Yeah.
also for beginners, for people who are like thinking, oh, should I do it or not? And I think you should do it. And the best advice is also to not look like people or on Instagram, like
Mm,
me, for example, whatever. I don't know. Just don't do it. Just do it for yourself and do what you love to do. Uh,
mm.
Even though if it's just a logo, do it, and you don't know what opportunities will come up and or arise. So that's my advice. So do what you want to do, and eventually, yeah, great things will will happen,
Nice.
maybe.
I mean, that kind of leads me quite nicely to another question because I was quite curious. Like, I know on your social media you're very active in the space, right? And you're pushing out a lot and doing a lot of content.
Mhm.
Have you got any advice for maybe folks who are say they're starting out and it can be quite nerve-wracking, right? When you've done a piece and you just share it to the world because you don't know how it's going to be. How do you kind of go about when you do share and then that I guess acceptance of on social media, which is a bit a lot to unpack, but how do you go about doing it? And then advice that you can maybe share around
Yeah,
the
so
audience.
that was actually really hard, and you also got like the anxiety of, hey, will people like my work, whatever. But I think
Mm,
the biggest message in there is that even though you don't think it will be nice or whatever, I think the best thing is to show your process, because if people see your process and know how you work and how you do things, that is
mm,
how you get and how do you say it, like trust also from clients, but also for other people. People know what you're capable of, and even though if it's your first work, you it's not never perfect. Like I had this mindset always, like to I want to be to have something perfect, for example, a Beyonce presentation before posting it, and it's still hard to do, but the
mm.
advice is to think about not make it that perfect, because you can't be perfect. You always need to try harder and improve yourself and be the best version of yourself. And you see others in your work. It's a nice reflection for your own work. You in the years you see how you grow if you
That
practice, and
process.
yeah.
Do you ever get a chance to like look back? It's quite nice when I don't know. I don't know if you find this, but because it's so easy to get kind of wrapped up in our own world and we're working on the next client and whatnot, that to take a step back and look back at what you've done. Do you get
Yeah,
time to
should
do that
it
sometimes when you
do
look
that.
back? Yeah,
Yeah, I should do that do that more often. Yeah, it's
we're all
it's
guilty
always
with that, right?
yeah, you're always like pushing for someone else, for a client, for a company, whatever, and then you are
Mm.
like, my portfolio, my projects, my own identity.
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah. And that's a tricky one, like knowing your identity, right? Because I guess it's kind of like when you put stuff online, it's what folks will know you as. But then
yeah.
maybe if you're still unsure yourself, you're trying to carve that, I guess, niche for who you are, what you're about,
Mhm.
so folks can know to reach out. Do you feel like you've, I want to say mastered it, but like, do you feel like you're comfortable in that space where you're like, cool, I'm a logo brand designer, this is me, and that, or are you still finding other new things to kind of wanting to work on?
Yeah, it's like you're always like you want to keep how to say, not variating but improving, and of course you feel like kind of comfort, but it's not fully. And in the meantime, also in the behind the scenes, I'm still working on my own identity, and that's something I also talked about in the last Adobe Live with Ryan, is that I'm still working on, and I have something ready, and in order to let it out, because people know me, for example, just by my image or head on Instagram. I haven't changed that
Yeah.
for a while. Also, colors is a really important thing in branding and brand identity. So these
Mm,
are all the things you have to keep in mind, and it's really hard because what time are you going to change something? For example, a profile picture. That's also really hard to do because people might not notice you anymore, or uh,
sure.
so it's always so when do you change? It's really hard.
It's taking that time out, isn't it? Because it's tricky. It's a fast-paced world we live in, right? To try and take that moment to digest, and even maybe folks who are watching now and listening again, it's maybe they're taking a moment out of their day to actually watch the stream or listen to the stream, which is maybe quite nice as well. And in
Yeah.
terms of like, in terms of your work, actually going back to your on your website now, maybe you've got like anything you want to show us, any visuals that you've kind of worked on, and also like maybe you want to talk us through a particular project that really stands out for you.
Yeah, so here I have my this portfolio, but I have another portfolio that I can showcase. There's if people
Cool.
ask me, there's like recent work, so a bit secret, but
Yeah.
this is kind of like a portfolio of older work, 2021, 2022, etc. This one I
Mm,
showcased already before. So this is actually like a project I did also during COVID. It was for a psychology practice, and she wanted a logo that yeah represented a buzzard, because a buzzard, yeah, that stands for fighting against infidelity.
mm,
And I had in mind like, how can we create something memorable, not too complicated, not too busy, but still, yeah, convey the message of it. So I tried to figure out how to incorporate the buzzard into a bubble, because the name is also a bubble, my bubble, mijn
mm.
bubble in Dutch. You can see like the grid. So here I explain the
Nice.
meaning, like Buzzard Moon, and then the final logo mark. Yeah, some business card mockup. Also another vertical lookup. So within the logo brand entity, you also have a system that you have to create.
Mm.
So you can have like horizontal, vertical, landscape, whatever you want to call it. Here's, for example, like a
That's cool.
poster. Yeah,
Yeah, that's very cool.
and some other variations, like other
Mm.
mock-up, like to write notes, an overview of the system, the visual system. So you have some variations, type and logo mark variation. Cool.
Nice. I love that that visual breakdown, because I mean my background's more editorial, so it's so refreshing to sort of see how the kind of branding logo kind of realm works. And I love when you had a visual at the very top where it was like that kind of almost like a breakdown of the logo, how it kind of came about. I think it was like four
Oh,
circles or three.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those I think is really cool when you especially when you see logos almost like dissected in this
hmm
kind of like visual way. It's really interesting to sort of see.
Yeah, and this always starts with a sketch, and then I try to explain also to the clients like what is it about, what does the logo tells you. You have to
Mm,
a logo should be identifiable, and you should remember it. So it should not be too complicated, because you think about other famous brands, they are really simple, and that's also my approach in design. I want to keep it simple and modern. So it's
mm,
always a thing when you see my sketches to yeah, delete like the overcomplicated things. So I also have another project I can show you here.
yeah.
This is also done a while ago. Shy Monkey Publishing, a publisher, and here you see like a sketch. It was not the initial sketch. I had like a monkey, and then with eyes, and really detailed, and with a body. And then I was
Mm.
like
Ripping it
trying
apart.
to, yeah, ripping it apart. Like
Or
I think
dissecting it.
yeah, that's also what some other like famous designers tell you, like just delete until it still is recognizable and memorable. And
Mm,
for this one I was designing, I had the monkey, and I had everything together. Like here you see the circles, and I was like, yeah, how in the world can I incorporate a book, for example, a book laying open? And
mm,
then I was like trying with the shape builder to an illustrator to cut things out to see if something cool could happen. And then I was like,
mm.
whoa, this can actually look like it's a book that is open. So here you see also like the explanation behind it. Like here's
Ah,
the
dude,
S
very
from
cool.
shy, and here, for example, the M upside. It could also be a W, of course, but yeah, I was looking like, hey, what could it also mean? The letter P
Yeah.
from publishing, and the book, what I wanted to have in.
Mm,
Also reading glasses, and eventually you want to have there's a lot of times with logos you want to
Mm.
have like an reflection of the symbol with the name, and it was Shy Monkey, so shy, and also these glasses can feel like you don't see the eye, so something is behind
Sure,
the
sure.
lid.
I
Yeah.
love that. That is awesome, dude. Very, very cool.
And you
I
see
love
some
that
other
breakdown.
mock-ups, other variations.
With these, I've got questions. Kind of going back to when you were doing that rationale, the breakdown. Do you find out
Mhm.
when you're creating a logo? I guess it ranges with clients potentially, but do you kind of hang that the idea comes to mind straight away, or do you kind of have to step away and then draw ideas and then sit on it a bit longer and take time, or does it kind of come to mind quite quickly as you've got obviously experience
Yeah,
in the game?
depends. Yeah, depends. Sometimes it's really you see the brief and you see the questions, and you already have like some things in mind you can do. Then I already start sometimes in Illustrator already if I just want
Mm,
to play
okay.
with shapes, or sometimes
Mm,
with sketches. And
mm.
sometimes also you are just creating and there's no like you don't see things happening, like a sort of creative block, and then we all know this
Yes.
creative block, and then you just walk or like do something else, watch YouTube, whatever. Um, so
Or
that's
Adobe live
really
streams,
no,
just saying.
yeah, that's really normal, I think. Like you don't,
Yeah.
um, that happens to everyone, and then
Mm,
eventually, yeah, ideas will come to mind. I think sketching is really important, and it's the things that also will boost all the ideas come. Because, for example, if you have a sketch and you then make variations of it, you see
mm.
different things, and maybe some things you can combine together. That's a thing I could, yeah, give
I
as a
love that. I
message.
love
Yeah.
that. Well, it's refreshing to know. I mean, again, it's you kind of just to unpack what you said as well, which is quite nice that you work with with a notepad, kind of pencil to pen, or and then drawing it on in a computer, or just jumping straight into Illustrator because it depends on the client and the brief. And it'd be great for anyone watching. What's your kind of background as folks? Do you kind of jump straight on an Illustrator? Do you do more of a go to the park with a moleskin book and draw? Like, what's your process? Let us know in the chat. But you mentioned that word creative block, and I feel that's something that happens to all. How do you kind of untangle that when you're in a space where you've got a client project, you're in the zone, and boom, you're just thinking, how do I get past that hurdle? Do you need to take a step away from the screen, or do you kind of just
Yeah.
churn it through with a solid Spotify playlist? What's your thing?
Sometimes it's away from the screen or just walking, but I think
Mm,
sometimes what helps for me is to do just totally something different. Watch other videos, listen to music, or do a game, whatever. And then after some time, maybe even though after a day, it's great, it's better because, for example, if you start a day with a fresh mind, you can just generate better ideas. And I've had this a lot, and then you are stuck at a sketch or a part of for example, if I have the logo ready and I want to
mm.
match the typography, I always search for elements. But sometimes you have a logo and then you're like, how in the world I'm going to add unique touches to this logo type to make it cohesive or to balance it? And I'm just like, okay, this project, let's leave it and let's hop over to the other, and then the other day we'll come back. It's yeah, kind of that way. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I feel like as well, right, we've had an example of like some of the work you've done. So I'm guessing it's gonna take a stab in the dark here, but Illustrator, that is your go-to tool.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah,
your,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that was like an obvious one. But
You
so
can see
in
from my
terms of like
profile.
yeah, I mean, I had it like literally all of the alarm bells was ringing. Illustrator, Illustrator. So let's get into the in terms of the Illustrator and the dynamics and the tools. Have you got a favorite tool in Illustrator that you tend to use often?
Yeah,
And if so, we can jump into it whenever and we can have a little look as well.
yeah, sure. I will dive into Illustrator. I will first do it like this. Otherwise, you already see like a project that I'm going to talk about and like
Sure.
showcase to you and also to other people that I haven't showed before, the really big project.
Mm,
But in Illustrator, there are so many things and also underrated tools, whatever. I think recently what I really like is, for example, if you have a rectangle and
mm.
you pick this symmetrical tool. Let me see, where is it again? Oh, I totally forgot. It's so
That's always the
annoying.
case, isn't it? When you're in
Yeah,
the
the
zone, it's
S. It's just the
I
S.
don't
Just
worry.
press S, and then when you do this, you can then move points symmetrically to each other. It's really handy.
Okay. I think we have a little bit of
Oh
a glitch
yeah,
because by all means we're talking about Illustrator. It's where's the Illustrator program? So we're gonna get that up. We'll get it up shortly. But I know, yeah, it sounds like you've got your tools and tricks, I should say, that you like to use in Illustrator program. So we'll get it
yeah.
up shortly in a minute when that's
Do I
in a
then
good
have to
place.
like change the settings, or is it fine like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can see we've got some folks popping in the chat, which is cool as well, just to kind of drop it in. So we're getting that 20-minute mark. We've got Marsha, Wade. So again, folks, if you've just joined us, welcome. We are in the flow of trying to jump into Illustrator, so bear with us if we've got any glitches happening. But again, just a nice time to kind of mention as a reminder, as we've got Lars, awesome brand logo designer. Any questions you have for him, feel free to get that in the chat. And I think we are back in Illustrator now, so we can jump straight into it. So there we go. The
Yes.
beauties of live streaming, my friends. Go on. So yeah, let's go into it
Live.
when you're ready,
It's
Lars.
live, right? Yeah. So
Totally live, definitely not pre-recorded.
I was talking about like the tools and maybe some tools that I really like. And lately, I recently also like to use this one. It's called the symmetrical the S on your keyboard. So if you, for example, select 2 points and you press S, you can symmetrically adjust these points without using, for example, a mirror tool to duplicate and copy things. And recently, also Adobe included the mirror tool. So you go to Path and then, oh sorry, to repeat and then array of a mirror, and you can also see you can mirror it.
Ah,
It's also really
cool.
nice. It's really handy, and also the auto grid tool. It's nice.
Yeah.
But this is just like one of the awesome features. I really like Illustrator. It's so many things, and you can experiment a lot. And also with the appearance panel, there are quite some things that you can do, like not basics, but elaborate on certain
Of
things.
course.
But yeah.
And what's your kind of like in terms of like the gadgets and tools that you work? Are you working on a trackpad? Are you tablet? What's your kind of setup? So
Yeah,
I'm always curious to know how folks work.
so I have my sketchbook, but I also have this wake lamp. Oh,
Okay.
like this one.
Nice.
Yeah, I sometimes use it, and then I connect it to my screen. And sometimes also just with my mouse because I was like not addicted, but to my mouse. But I was working with my mouse quite a lot, so I was used
Yeah.
to it. I think Ryan also said it in the other live. Like you're just working with your mouse, or like drawing. I think if you try and draw with your mouse a lot
It's
of times,
difficult as
uh,
yeah, it's
in the
some
beginning
people
you're
probably
like,
do it, right?
yeah, you're trying to, for example, if you are stuck on a point and you want to go down and then you're stuck with your mouse, yeah, all
It's difficult.
these
I don't know
things.
if you ever had this or anyone else in the chat. I can't be the only one, surely. But when you're on, like, say, a plane, you're traveling, and you got like a laptop MacBook Pro, and you're in the tightest of gaps, but you're still trying to make things work. It's like your index finger is just hating you. But
Yeah,
surely anyone else hasn't in the chat has those moments. But yeah, I know what you mean. You need something comfortable, right, when you're in that kind of space.
yeah,
But we've got some great comments in the chat. We've got so we mentioned about going back when we previously about this idea of creative block. We've touched, but we got a comment from Keys who said sometimes switching to a different project helps a lot, which I think you might have touched on as well.
yeah,
So it's kind of great to
totally
know what folks think as well. Yeah.
cool. All right,
Yeah, we
should
jump
I
into
then?
Illustrator
Yeah,
when you're ready. Yeah.
Illustrator. I'm illustrating right now. Can you see what you
Yeah, we
see
can
on
see
the
it.
screen?
We see a few scratches and
Yeah.
yeah,
So this is
it's like a little
actually
game.
a new project that I want to showcase. It's about a startup company. Startup is quite big already now, but it's
Mm,
called Upflyte, and it's an aviation company that wanted to create like an app for aviation, for flight schools, for pilots to manage your schedule, your aircrafts. Try to keep everything really simple and compact for pilots to manage it on a mobile app to make sure that you can fly more. And that's the thing. You want to fly more, fly better, fly faster.
mm,
So here you can see, like, for example, a sketch that I had, and then how I work, I just create lines, and then I'm like, with the shape builder tool, I'm selecting it, and then, for example, uh, create these, you see, these shapes.
mm.
And then here I was like, this looks a bit weird because it's a plane, but you can also like see it on the
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like a kind of bird. But at first we didn't have like something like we with a flight. It was not in there. So I was really looking to how can we differentiate from other competitors. So we also dived into other competitors. How can we
Mm,
stand out? Because in the aviation branch, there's a lot of blue tints and tones, and yeah, for a aviation company, you're not going to use red or green or whatever. That's really stupid.
Definitely not
And
red. You don't want fire related to air flight at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you're crashing in the air. No, so I already had in mind like maybe something with blue, but a really saturated blue color, but you will see it later on.
Cool.
So here, yeah, for example, you see a lot of variations, and yeah, this was just the early stage of the process. I tried with some type and looked how it looks. This is where it all starts, right? It looks really dumb and ugly and whatever, not cohesive, and you have to
Mm,
trust the process. And also with that's
so
also a
true.
thing with clients. I'm convinced that you are never the one with just one idea and then it's done. I think that a collaboration with clients should be really how to say it, like straight, like not make fun of it. It should be really serious.
Sure.
You have to take that
Sure.
in mind because they also have something in mind.
Mm,
They think about things differently. So in
mm.
the beginning, what I normally do is like I have done my research. Sometimes I come up with a mood board. I do mind maps, etc. And then I will
Nice.
present a concept. Lately, I switched to the one concept method because think that a lot of times you lose time and you invest in a
So
concept,
true.
and eventually you will not work on one concept and the client choose that concept, and then you're like,
Sure.
yes, it's that time of the year again.
It's that feeling, isn't it, when it
Yeah,
when it finally gets
yeah,
approved? It's like, oh, that feels
yeah.
good.
And you still have to try, of course, you have to try to convince the client because you know it best as a designer, but they also have like perspectives, etc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you really have to keep going. And here I was like, this is a really ugly plane. Like, I also showed it already to the client, and he
Mm.
was like, okay. Then I
Did he
was
like
like,
your plane, Lars? Did he think it was an? Did he appreciate the plane or not really?
not
Not as
really.
much.
I think these were the two concepts I presented first, and actually I
Okay.
liked this one. Maybe this might be
Mm.
too big for the variation to look up, and I was more into this one instead of this one. So we
Okay.
did a lot of variations, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, try to already play with color, see how things
Sure.
look. See here, like I've learned, I think, from
Okay.
Aaron Draplin that you have to keep your old files and then make changes to the existing one so you don't lose any um,
Yes, definitely.
variations in the meantime. I think that's
So true. So
important.
true. And I've just on that, you've obviously you mentioned the design god that is Aaron Draplin as well. Like I feel like there's a lot of inspiration out there, right? And there's a lot of folks doing awesome things. On that topic, is there any kind of folks that you kind of look at for inspiration or any kind of go-to places?
Yeah,
Yeah, share us your mind palace of inspiration, Lars. We're in a good place for it.
these are the big ones made by James Martin, James Barnett,
Oh
of
yeah.
course, Alan, Alan
It's
Peters.
hard to think, isn't it, at a time when your mind's just like there's loads, but it's difficult to like pin yeah.
Yeah, but also like there's also Dutch designer in the Netherlands, Jeroen. Oh, I don't know Jeroen van Eerden. Sorry, I really look up to him as well.
Nice.
Yeah, there's so many people. I think you
There's a
take
lot of folks,
inspiration from
right?
any. Yeah, and these are
Yeah.
really big, and also I like their approach. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really cool.
Nice. I mean, I ask that because it's always nice to know, where folks kind of tend to get their inspiration from and what they're looking at. But even for maybe those watching us now on the streams, and very new to the space of creativity and design space, obviously there's a lot of the design, people have been there for many, many years and inspired, but also those who are just starting out or those who maybe watching the streams like we are now. Again, that's also a form of
Yeah,
inspiration, right? So I kind of like to think across the whole board, there's like various points that you kind of dip in and dip out in terms of your inspiration
yeah,
from.
exactly. So can I continue with another part of
Sure.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah?
We've got
So
a question when you're in a good
oh,
place, by the way. We've got a good question, but I'll throw that in when you're in a good space to ask that.
okay. So here we already continued and exploring different concepts. For example, with the radial tool, try to um, get something like, for example, when you look at a helicopter and then you have that propeller, or like I don't know what's
Mm.
called in English. Yeah, it could
Yeah.
resemble
Propeller.
like that. But we didn't feel it like that. But this was more in the direction. We already like thought, this is like a swoosh, and it also resembles like a fly, right? And
Yeah.
fly is in the name, Upflyte. And that was the moment that we were like, yeah, we need to continue on this
The
one.
brainwave.
Yeah, you can see all the variation, all the experimenting with colors because this was I was the brand designer and then we were collaborating with the UX UI designers from the app because the logo should also be on the app and you can also look it up in the app store. It's already there, so it's really cool also to see your own design
Of
in the app
course.
store.
Yeah. Very cool.
And then here, yeah, with the color blue. And this was not actually, you see here, for example, looked at other blues. Um, this was not the final color. Eventually, we had to adjust some things for the brand because it had to be cohesive with the app. So the people at the app wanted to have the great colors
Mm.
together with the identity. So these were not the final colors. You will see that later. So still a lot of variations and really tiny adjustments. For example, you see here these oblique angles on the
Mm.
P. We wanted to convey that swoosh, that fast movement also on the Y. And we tried on the F, for example. It's really it was a long process. I tried to look at how the lookup looks. So enough
Nice.
spacing around. Try some other things. Here, cool effect.
That's
Like
cool.
it's
Like that.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
and also
Very, very
really
cool.
hard with patterns like this.
I feel like, but even like you kind of talking us through and watching, it's one of those ones where it's so easy to keep on creating and creating and creating, right? And you have to kind of like take a step back and simplify because you could just go. I mean, you've gone into patterns now, and it's like, wow, like it's just yeah, it can go into multiple different realms, right?
Yeah, you can go really hard
That's
like this.
cool. I like that.
Yeah,
It's like yeah, the rabbit hole pretty much.
yeah,
We've got a question in the chat, which is probably a nice time to mention that. So one from Keys who said, Lars, how do you go about initiating a logo, sketch to grid, or the other way around, grid to final? Which I feel like maybe we might have touched on. You showed us a bit, but yeah,
yeah.
it's a question from Keys there.
So yeah, so that question I also got on Instagram because of past collaboration with an extension. Then
Mm,
you can grid something. I think it's really important to first have a sketch. And what I normally do is I sketch and then I just want to create something really fast so that the client can see like if this is going in the right direction for both of us. So I
mm,
will not make it perfect because you will lose time, right? If you, for example, create a grid from that sketch and eventually
mm,
the client doesn't love it, you will lose a lot of time. That's also a disadvantage for the client. So then it's just really fast doing that. And in the end, when you want to finalize something and show it to the client and you're really convinced of it, then you can construct your grid yeah, in the perfect way. So here I did it manually.
nice.
Um, so I had to take these lines and then with the shape builder tool to make sure that everything is aligned and perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, you cannot always aim for perfect, but I try.
We can get close to it, right? We can
Yeah,
get close to perfect.
yeah. So
Very cool, and it's a nice time to mention about half an hour into the stream now, so that's a that kind of good talking point for anyone who has just joined us. A massive welcome, and today on today's stream we have Lars, a brand design, logo design, I should say. He's kind of talking us through his design process, and we're getting a feel for the work he does, the kind of design process he does, and also inspiration. So if you have just joined us, massive welcome, and of course get those questions in the chat, and I will share them directly with Lars. But Lars, on that topic of clients, we mentioned a lot about that the C word of client.
mm,
Do you find when it comes to feedback and amends, things that we all love, right, as creatives, how do you go about digesting that? Because sometimes it's a bit trickier, especially for those maybe in the chat who are starting out as designers and they're trying to test out waters of working with clients. Have you got any advice you could give them for when they've received, say, feedback that is not necessarily the feedback that they were expecting?
yeah, don't be surprised because client can also come from different directions to you. I think
Mm,
the really good thing is to ask more and ask really specific to if the client say I don't like it, then just ask like what is something that you don't like and how do
mm,
you did you have something different in mind? Maybe the mood board was not right. We were in the wrong direction, and I think mood board
mm,
is also really important. It will make sure that you are on the right path and it will also make sure that you have less like changes along the way. But this project again, it also took a lot of revisions. because it
Mm,
was not the right feeling for the client, for the people at Upflyte. And I totally understand that, but sometimes you also need to keep in mind that you cannot continue all the way. Yeah? Sometimes you state in your brief you have like 3 or 5 amendments and changes,
mm,
sorry, and then when you continue, you increase or your rate or you ask more. That should be
mm.
clear as well, I think. And I also do that because otherwise you keep continuing with changes, and people always have something to look at, like details. And clients also, when they see something that's not, they also want it to be perfect. So when they see, for example,
Mm.
something that's sticking out or like a little detail, yeah, they will say it, and then yeah, you also have to create a line, a border of until when. Otherwise, you can keep continuing
Keep
on
on
and
going,
on.
right?
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. It's and I mean, because it's interesting. 'Cause I know you mentioned that you've gone freelance or you started designing during the pandemic, which is actually the same time as myself. And I don't know if you find this, but as we keep on, as another year of freelance goes, do you find that we're still forever learning, right? That process of how to work
Yeah,
with clients. There's
really
never
hard.
like a definitive
Really.
point of, oh, I've made it. Now I
No.
know how to deal with every client. It's forever, right? It's trying to find that
Still,
yeah.
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 You're still keeping to
Mm,
improve, and your every project new challenges will come, and you are learning from that, and you
mm,
will incorporate that into your process. Because yeah, what I do now is the process that I fully self taught myself, just with starting with research, and then also of course from other people, famous people. You will see some posts on Instagram, social media. You learn things through videos, and you
mm,
can take that information and then adapt to your own process with that. I think that's also good, but you should be confident in your own process. Make sure that you're fully behind it and you know what you are doing, and know
mm,
what you, for example, in the logo, in the logos, what you want to tell and to convey to people and explain your story behind it. Because you can, for example, in the past, also what I did in the beginning, I had a logo with a
mm.
type, whatever. I just send it in PNGs over the mail, and that's it. No explanation, no elaborate presentation, and then that's it.
Boom, there we
And
go.
yeah,
Yeah. I do find, I mean, that's an interesting point because I was going to touch on that actually. It's one of those ones where, and this is a bit of personal experience where if I'm working on a project, in particular, say a logo, rather than just send it to the client and hope for the best, sometimes I try that period between when you send the logo to when you have the feedback, try and quickly have a chat with them, just so you can maybe elaborate and give them a bit of a rationale as to why you designed the logo. Because it's probably a bit
yeah,
smoother in terms of the process if you can speak to them rather than
yeah.
there's
I
the
really,
logo, give me 10 days and then come back to me. They'll just spend all 10 days showing the mum and the wife the whatever. Yeah. So it'd be a long process waiting, right?
I believe also
Um,
do meetings, and
mm,
you can better communicate with your client and see what they don't like, and you also, of course, you have to convince them in a way that is still yeah, you have to explain it correctly to them. That's a big part of it. If you don't understand
mm.
your own design, yeah, how is the client then going to
So true.
understand it? Yeah,
So
and
true. So
I
true.
think also with Adobe, they like, I don't know which what year it was, but they added the feature with share. You can share your artboards or your designs within Adobe
Yes.
Illustrator, and you can send it over, and the client can
Yes.
then also message and write notes next
Yeah.
to your designs, and you know specifically what you have to change. I sometimes also do this. It's really handy and useful. Yeah.
Mm. I love that you mentioned that because that's the beauty of where we have these tools that's quite integrated now, right? For folks that it feels rather than just a designer in the back cave just designing away and then you never see them again. It's you're able to make it more collaborative, right? And I know we've done a few streams before where we tap into Adobe Express and then we're bringing work in and maybe for say clients or even other creatives who are not necessarily that confident in say an Adobe Illustrator, but they might be in an Express. That's a bit more of an easier tool that they could then use based on the design that you might have originally created in Illustrator. So
Mhm.
there is ways that you can kind of dabble in, right, depending on your skill set, which
Yeah,
is
and
cool.
it's really easy also for beginners to use Adobe Express. It's handy, and you can also I think lately also with animations you can
Yeah,
do
yeah.
some cool things, and also within the nice thing about the cloud is that you can have access to all these things at the same time. So with asset export or libraries, you can easily get access to it on the app or in mobile and just post it, whatever. So
Exactly.
I really like yeah the cloud and especially Illustrator. Illustrator is a
Yeah.
thing I can't live without.
See, my
Yeah.
friends, we've made life so much easier for you. So you got no excuse now to jump on the app or to Illustrator or Express, depending on what your potion is. So we've got some great questions here as well, which I want to make sure we definitely get through these before we kind of get to that last
Mm.
sort of 15 minutes or so. We've got a question from Marsha who said, when it comes to mood boards, do you get a sign off on that before you continue?
Yeah, so when I do the mood board, I present if I do it to present it to the client, and then yeah, I do this in a meeting, and if the client approves on it, then I will go in that direction. So that's a bit of how I do it. There are a ton of other things you can do. Everyone has his own process, but that's just
Hmm.
yeah how I do it. Yeah.
I think that's yeah. I mean, that's probably the most streamlined and probably smartest way, right? Because then you don't want to start designing and going down this complete route, which is nowhere near what the client
Yeah.
envisioned it to be. It saves your own self time as well, right? To
Yeah.
make sure you're on the right path.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly I do this for brand identity projects and for logo projects is just mind mapping, do some recent mind mapping. I think mood board for just a logo is yeah not really that of it can be useful, but sometimes not. If for example they just want a symbol, yeah,
Mm,
you can also ask them to make a mood board via other platforms and then they can send it to you. But for I think
very
for bigger
true.
projects, it's really good to have your own direction, your creative direction, and then move towards that.
Mm. I think that's a great point, actually, because I know, I mean, a lot of, including myself as well, when we're working with clients, sometimes you've got your, the obvious candidates like Pinterest, where a client might have the board and then they
Yeah.
share it. But I always find as well, it's good to know what they like, but more importantly, what they don't like, because that's the thing. It's almost like you want to make sure then you can, if they're not a big fan of like curved edges or whatever it is, then we make sure that the first concept's not going to be a giant curved edge, right? It'll just really annoy them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just have
we've
to
got
ask them
another.
like the pictures of like what do you don't like, and then send all this to you at first.
Yeah, can you imagine just like in hieroglyphics form?
Yeah.
We've got a question here, another one from Keys who said, so Lars, do you follow trends that are current or trends from the past, or still mix it up and try something new? Great question.
Ooh, yeah, I recently
Solid
really
question.
liked yeah the grid trend with you also see it on yeah, can I say this brand? You know, the
Yeah.
iPhone. You see like these boxes. I don't know what's it called. Um,
Okay. Not sure.
what is
That's
it
one for the
called? Like
Google, isn't it, for later?
yeah,
But
it's just with also these boxes, rectangles, squares, and with curved edges, round edges. That's really
mm,
coming up. But I believe that you should not influence your designs by trends because you want to have your designs timeless. And in some years,
true.
then eventually it can be that you, for example, had a vintage logo that was really trendy in the year 2010, whatever, and they're like, yeah, we need to rebrand.
It's true. I guess that's the thing when you do a logo, right? You never know when it's going to be hopefully not dated, right? You want it to kind of last and to stand the time, which is kind of maybe when we do. I mean, again, I'm not from the realm of logo design, but I've done some designs in that, and from me, the best ones are the ones that can be quite flexible and adaptable down the line. They're not
Yeah,
too restricted, right?
yeah.
To the parameters. I mean, where do you, without, it's quite a bold question, but where do you kind of see branding or logo design kind of going into the future, like in maybe that AI route, or again, folks being a bit more collaborative? What would
Yeah,
you want to see more
talking
importantly?
about AI, yeah. And people are really scary of AI, but we should not be because we have to utilize it in a way that speeds up our process. It should be an advantage for us and also for the client
Mm,
itself because we will need less time. For example, for a brief, if you want to do passion project in the past, you were just doing some research, get information, whatever, and then in the end,
mm,
now with AI, you can just set up a brief and create something yourself or write some posts. I think we really should use it to speed up the process, and I'm convinced it won't. Um, how to say it, replace it because yeah, if you look at, for example, text to vector graphic in Illustrator and you try to
yeah,
say, for example, I want to have like a
it's a game
dragon or
changer.
yeah, you can use it as a reference as a starting point, right? Not as a final product, of course. It's you
Mm,
get ideas from it. You can like type some things in Adobe Firefly. I recently like the structural reference is really sick. You can use your
mm.
logo, for example, and then put it in there, and it will create a whole different thing to it.
No, I feel like for those who are kind of like just either they have a job that's not creative, but they're curious about the creative space, so they use programs, or those who are just starting out, say in education, it's perhaps the perfect time to be like learning to be a designer because a lot of these tools, even for not telling my old age, but when I was in uni, kind of starting out, this was not a thing, right? In terms of, and for many people, it wasn't a thing, but it's cool that there's a lot more, updates in terms of the tools that are now there to make life a bit more streamlined,
Yeah,
right, for
yeah.
your work process.
It's
Yeah.
really sick, and you never know what opportunities will come also to Illustrator even more.
Mm.
I think what's already now here with style reference and I think structural reference was recently added in Adobe Firefly. That's already sick. And also, for example, the mockup tool in Illustrator, that's also really sick
Yes,
because
that's
you
a
can
good
just
one.
preview already
Yeah.
your logo before hopping into Photoshop and do all these kind of cool mockups. You just quickly
Yeah.
see it. It's insane. Yeah,
I mean, the
they're
long
doing
gone the
great.
days where you have to go online and try and search the perfect mock-up, right? Because that takes, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if you ever had this, but I've got like a, if like, I feel like most designers probably do this, but you have one main hard drive, maybe a plan B hard drive, and then if things go crazy, maybe a third hard drive, maybe. But I kind of have like a lot of mock-ups, maybe pre-saved or fonts or whatever. Do you kind of tend to, maybe this is a different question, but when it comes to organizing your files and everything, are you very strategic in that kind of way? Are you saving things to the cloud, hard drives? Again, it's just good to know how other
Yeah,
creators
just
operate.
I just saved on the hard drives.
Mm,
Because I recently also I think Adobe there was a message that from the Creative Cloud it won't be on there, so they messaged or like you get a notification that you have to make sure that it's out of the cloud. It was recently I don't know what was happening, but I already made use of my hard disk. So also for client projects, I keep them safe on some disk and also these
nice,
videos and tutorials, etc. It's all yeah on there.
nice. It's to be fair, it's very healthy to make sure you have a backup, right? It's that classic case of the hard drive breaking down on the day of the deadline project. Again,
Yeah,
it's just spoken from true experiences, but it's not great. But
that moment
we've
when you
got the
realize.
I mean, it happens more than, yeah, hopefully I haven't jinxed anyone from watching it. But we've got the sort of final 5 or 6 minutes or so. So I want to make sure that, again, anyone in the chat, if you're on YouTube, answer those final questions for Lars, please do get those in. And we've got another question from Marsha who said, and it's for both of us actually, Lars and Kieron, are you on Mac or PC? I think I know what you're on based on your interface, but you tell me what's your setup?
I have a PC, self-built PC. I got help
Yeah.
from a friend. I have I think a 3070 GTX and 32 gigabytes of RAM and the CPU. I forgot. I think it
Oh,
was
technical again.
Ryzen
I love
or
this.
yeah, I don't know, Ryzen or AMD. I don't know. I have no idea. I have to check it.
Cool.
Sorry, some.
Are you a laptop as well as a desktop kind of guy, or what's your
I have a
or do you
laptop, but
just
I'm
okay?
more a desktop. I like that.
Yeah. I struggle on. I mean, yeah, having work on the go as a freelance is useful, right? With the laptop, but I don't know about you, but I like the whole computer chair setup, two screens. It's almost like the major. I feel like
Yeah.
yeah,
I
maybe
have
folks
one screen
watching. Yeah.
actually. Yeah, I have one
Ah,
screen.
okay. Split
Yeah.
screen is dangerous sometimes because it's good. It could be
Yeah.
good for like two programs, but it can also be good for having YouTube up. I'm just saying it could be
Yeah,
it could be
yeah,
a
yeah.
dangerous slippery
Dis
slope. Or having Adobe
distraction.
Live in the background. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some jokes here. What happened to mac and cheese? I need to be a design joke of some sort. So yeah, I mean those five minutes now before we kind of wrap up. Have you got any? As we've kind of got a bit of an insight into your world, your realm, seeing your process, your programs, for anyone who are kind of starting or looking to get into the type of work that you're into, have you got any advice or tips that you could bestow upon them
I
and
think
myself,
yeah.
all of us?
I think the what I would say to people is that if you think that something is perfect, that of course it won't be in the beginning and also later on not. You have to if you are passionate about something and you love something to do, then just showcase, and you will never know what opportunities will come. And it's also important to be consistent. It's also really hard because if you're consistent and you're consistently showing up, for example, even if it's on videos or like stories or I know I'm not the best at that, but people love to know about the person behind a designer, for example, and about
Mm,
trust, and keep also good contact with clients. For example, if you have a client project and in the end ask for a review, for example, and try to ask for other ask them for referrals that they can
very good.
show to other people and people know about you. Word of mouth
Mm,
is also really important, and just keep producing and do what you want to do and showcase it to the world, and that's where you get possibly yeah, new clients, I think.
I love that. I mean, you've definitely shared some gems in that comment, and I love that. And I think you hit the nail on the head because when you are a freelance, as you know, I'm sure it's important that relationship, right? That working relationship, that it's strong enough that you don't just do one job and that's it. You're able to continually, down the line,
Yeah.
they think, oh, that's the person that I want to end up working with, right?
And
Um,
don't be afraid of like things you look up to. I think if you think something is a challenge, you should do that, even
mm,
though you are afraid of it, because you will learn new things and you know how to tackle it in the next project, and the project could be even bigger and could even
mm,
deliver more things. So don't be scared of challenges. Also, for example, in a client project with some questions, dare to ask a lot,
mm,
because this information is also important, and you already know as designer what direction you need to go. And
mm,
even though it can you can come up with ideas based on what the client is saying in a brief.
mm. I mean, that's a really great point. I think, I mean, you mentioned that word challenge, and it's a tricky one because there's got to be a level of confidence as well when you're doing that, and not everyone is confident or outspoken, and it's tricky, right? Because you want to challenge, but in a respectful way, that you don't annoy or upset or irritate the
Mm,
client. But
yeah.
again, we touched on earlier, right, where the more we go into this realm of freelancing, another year passes, you get a bit more confident and stronger, right, with
Yeah.
how you approach people.
I think also, for example, this project, what I have in Illustrator is for
Mm,
was for an app, and in the beginning it was really challenged because I haven't had any experience with designing a logo for an app. I tried some things with grids and looked how the logo looks on the app, but I don't have any experience on how this will eventually will go to the client and how it will use it if it's fine. How you can, for example, mess it up and then it's on the app and you think,
yeah.
damn.
Very close though. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I very great. So I mean, we've got literally well actually no, I think that's pretty much the time actually. Well, very, very quickly, you've got 1 minute if you can answer this question from Lars, which from Lars, your Lars, from Keys, he said, are you open to collaborate with other designers in the future? And if so, are you exploring this field by yourself? That's a
Ooh.
1 minute answer, then we have to wrap up.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think there are really great designers out there, and also some people that I look up to, and there are friends on Instagram. And maybe I've had this like a while ago with another friend of mine in the Netherlands, and we said like maybe you should start a brief, and then I was like you start with logo, I would do the type, and then we have a presentation. So maybe I don't know what will come up in the future. I have nothing planned with all
Nice.
the designers yet, but who knows? It will be
After this stream, you're going to open up your Insta. You're going to have a wave of just folks wanting to. I have no
sure.
doubt. Of course, we'll start a trend. But Lars, thank you so much for joining us on Adobe Spotlight. Have you enjoyed it? Have you enjoyed
Yeah, it was.
unpacking your life to
Yeah,
us to like an InDesign file?
yeah, it was a
Yeah,
bit nervous, but yeah, I think it went quite well, and I
no, you handled it awesome. Yeah,
hope to
you were
inspire
you.
people.
Of course, I mean, the comments were on point, dude. So you did a very awesome job. So on that note, it's just a little wrap up for myself. So stay tuned. We're gonna have DTM, aka Daniel Flores, who'll be designing an awesome logo for a brewery and for a beer brand using Adobe Illustrator. So we haven't left the Adobe Illustrator space. We're still much in this space, from Lars to Daniel. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And on that note, I mean, Lars, it's been an honor to host you. I'm sure we'll get a chance, hopefully, again, right,
Yeah,
to connect.
thank you for having
Yeah.
me as well. Yeah, it was really nice to be on here. Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope people liked it, and who knows, more in the future.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. And again, I mean, all lovely comments in the chat coming thick and fast.
Ja,
So yeah, I hope
Gunnetession.
you, of course, yeah, I'm sure you had a great time. So again, thank you, my friends, for joining us on another episode of Adobe Spotlight, and we will hopefully see you all very, very soon. So until then, stay tuned and have a good one. Ciao.